I don't know.
Probably
You?
not. No, it wasn't dirt when I moved here. I
When was
want to
it?
say it was paved sometime mid-70s.
I guess so. Maybe.
You remember when you had to watch?
No. Long-term memory is usually better than my short-term memory. I guess I might remember it when I was
Well, I just wasn't sure. I think somebody told me it was early mid-70s when it was paved. But I don't know for a fact.
Even had a birthday
I'm
party.
maybe 10, 12 years old.
So it's, that's what we.
Good.
Sorry, we're late. I had a birthday party for my son.
Yeah.
You're not late, Vaughn.
That's no excuse.
You're 3 minutes early.
Well, you had a walk last one, right? So, did you do the walk?
We did.
That's okay. Brent and I were there first. We decided to go.
What's that?
Brent and I were there first, so we decided what we were going to do.
Take care of it.
Anyhow, Tiny Frank did. Yeah, he did it on purpose. We'll wait another minute or two, just in case. And the red light. She's not, she's not. Then we won't wait another minute or two. The red lights are on, which means that this is being recorded. So if you have anything nasty to say, you say it to Steve directly. And then what he does is he goes back and he edits it later. So,
And I say that Jan said it.
yeah. Some things never change. I'd like to welcome all here today. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the first item on the agenda, or the second item on the agenda tonight is the adoption of the minutes of the meeting of April the 15th. So is there a motion?
I make a motion to accept the minutes.
Seconded.
Second, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, and we'll do this, please say aye so that they can hear it.
Vaughn seconded.
Yeah, Vaughn seconded. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Good. I would add right here that we did not have the workshop meeting that Brent and Ron were going to do, so we can talk about that a little bit later on in terms of how we want to do that. We have no public hearing tonight. New business, shoreland zoning application by Joseph Lebrecq for replacing his existing cottage with a new one at 44 Sibley Pond Road, tax map 20, lot 4. Steve, you want to do the introduction?
Yep, just 1 second here. Okay, let's see, Roy's going to do either. We met at the site of Joe Lebrecq, proposed relocation of his camp. And the purpose of that visit was to determine if the proposed setback was the greatest setback as determined practical by the planning board. We measured that the camp should be set back 11 feet and 6 inches from what is the name of it? The concrete monument tie-in line. Well, we determined that was where he proposed that it should be. And so the process now is to determine that proposal, and determine if you're comfortable with where that location is. Whoever makes a motion, I would suggest that they say that we made the decision by the location of the septic tank and the leach field, and the leach field's piping. No trees will need to be cut for the new location. The setback is the width of the camp further back than the original. Anybody else can add to that, because I can't make a motion, but that's probably some of the things that we should address.
Are you satisfied, Steve, it meets all the requirements of whatever, 16, D16.5 and 16.6 or whatever? I mean, it's not.
Joe owes us a letter of explanation on how that would affect the landscape, and he has a cut out of the book which lists the information that's required. But I guess he could submit that after the fact, and does not mean that would be a real issue, I don't think.
Quick reminder also, in the packets that you received for tonight's meeting, you had the new section, section 16, right?
That's right, yeah.
And so you should have replaced, the new one. Take the old one out. And if you're kind of curious in terms of where we're talking about, if you start on 16-6, it's basically the discussion and what kind of gives the planning board the authority to make these kinds of decisions. Pretty much spelled out at the top of that page. So there is some flexibility here.
I think it makes sense to allow the building to be built from that 11.6 line because it's not closer to the water than the existing building is, and I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be allowed. Because if you have to move the septic, I don't know if you leave the old in, you take it out, is there risk of contamination? I hate to see you have to take trees down for this. Just if we can do it.
At the proposal that's made, there's probably less disturbance than any other process.
Right.
And it still is moving further away from the water line.
Would someone like to make a motion, please?
Motion that we allow a new construction from the tie line, 11 feet 6 from the tie line. I'm sorry, 11 feet 6, yes, that's right, that's what I want to say, 11 feet 6 from the tie line for the new camp.
That would be this. Was that the center?
Is that where
That was the tie line to the front edge.
yeah, the
Okay,
tie line
new camp.
was the center of the existing camp.
And would you add the other comments that Steve would like to see in there regarding the septic?
As practical.
So again, making consideration, making your motion, or making your decision, you considered the location of the septic tank, the leach field piping. No trees will need to be cut. You kind of covered some of those.
Right. Do I need to say all that again?
You just did.
Okay. So that is my motion.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion?
I guess the question would be, do we want to put an 18-month provision on it, as it is in the existing code? When there's a replacement or reconstruction, they typically have an 18-month window on it. Do we want to? Will this happen within the next 18 months? Is that the plan for this season?
Okay, and I
I'm
think,
wondering if it would be in our best interest to include that from the shoreline zoning piece.
probably not a bad idea. And the other piece was, Joe, that you have to submit something else too, write a letter.
Yeah, that letter, yeah. He told me about it the other day and I didn't know I had to bring it tonight.
Okay. So, okay to add that to the motion for, it has to be completed within 18 months.
Yes, and he has to write the
And
letter.
upon receipt, and final approval granted on receipt of the letter from the owner.
Yep, yep.
Sound good? Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, call this to a vote. All in favor of the request, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so the first barbecue will be when?
Whenever you guys would all want to go over.
The building next door, right?
Huh?
The building next door. Right?
Yeah, the little one next door.
Yeah, okay, ooh.
Just be careful what you offer.
Yeah. Listen, I got a brand new tank on the grill, so we're good.
Okay, super, good, thank you. Under old business, we pick up on some discussion about the comprehensive plan. And I think you all received information in the packet about that. And these are recommendations that kind of came from,
The recommendations for what needs to be done came from the comprehensive plan. And under each of those requirements, I wrote in bold, italic, underlined letters, type, what we've done with each one of them. Because I was asked to do.
yeah, but the plan has also been reviewed by Joel.
We're all set.
Joel Greenwood.
Done.
Thank you. No. Thank you, everybody.
Greenwood, right?
Joel Greenwood. Discussion, comments, questions?
Thank you for putting this together, Steve. It was very useful.
It also it lists there the non-regulatory changes that I don't think we've done any of those. It's all there for you to have to look at.
Okay. Could we go over the ones that have not been done at least?
They're all right there, and some of them aren't done.
I don't know if it's my headache or what, but increase the permissible density of the R1 residential district by lowering the minimum lot size of unsewered lots from 22,500 to 20,000 square feet. So you're saying that,
Well, the only unsewered lots we have were combined into one a number of years ago, one big lot. It was done by Kyle, you didn't get his last name, Will?
What's that?
Kyle, that works for Chimbro.
Holmstrom. H.O. Holmstrom.
Holmstrom, yeah. He combined all those lots into one big one, and now he's not gonna build there, he wants to sell them, and he maybe consider making it into just two lots rather than one big one.
sharing a sewer line?
But
Is
those
that-
don't
They
have
don't
sewer and
have
water.
sewer, oh.
It's available at Birchwood Terrace, but he'd have to go several feet, probably 150, 200 feet back to where he's gonna build with new sewer lines and so forth. So there's really not too many lots up there that applies to.
So you're saying that they would not have to connect to the sewer system, that they could have a septic system instead? Is that the option?
No, they would have to have the sewer line.
They would have to have a sewer line.
At their cost, sewer and water, at their cost.
Okay.
Is that the piece of property right down from my house?
Yeah.
I'm also a little confused. At the bottom of that second page, under the non-regulatory changes, and maybe I'm just reading it wrong, but does that seem to have a negative connotation to it?
Where are you, Jan?
The first sentence on the second page down at the bottom. It
Okay.
says the town recognizes the potential and reality of market-based incentives to steer growth away from valuable rural areas and toward existing build-up areas. What's that mean?
It's land use planning to keep sprawl from happening in rural districts and to concentrate development in the districts that are already, I mean, that's a pretty big issue in a lot of, I mean, Pittsfield's not dealing with those issues, but it's an issue in a lot of areas where sprawling leads to sprawling infrastructure, which leads to additional costs to municipality, and looking at trying to minimize that and preserve rural farmland for working farms, right?
Okay.
Like if Tom were in Bozeman, Montana, where I used to live, he could sell development rights on his property to help encourage maintaining that as farmland, and to encourage denser residential growth in the municipality. It's pretty common land
Because the more you
use
spread
land
out,
use
the more
planning.
roads you have to build, the more roads you have to maintain,
infrastructure,
septics, all that.
And the more growth, it just puts pressures on property values and taxes, et cetera, for folks who are involved in critical industries within the town.
But I guess what's kind of confusing for me is that, you know, we hear on a fairly regular basis that taxes are going up, right? And there's just a lot of things happening, but if we're not encouraging people to come into the area, then we're not going to increase the tax base either. And I guess there's another piece to this that and maybe I'm just not seeing it, in terms of making this part of a discussion regarding economic development. And when I talk about economic development, I'm just not talking about businesses. I'm talking about families moving in too, because you know they're going to buy a piece of property, and eventually that piece of property they're going to end up paying taxes on it.
2, 3.
Yeah. So
So how do we find out, especially in central Maine, how do we find out, how do we get that balance, I guess is what I'm saying.
So one of the things I would say is just the language is not talking about deterring growth in areas. All it's saying is that the town recognizes the potential reality of using market-based incentives to direct growth in a way that makes sense for the community, as opposed to coming in and saying this has, I mean, we do that in some ways through our zoning ordinances, right, to say that this is the type of development that has to happen here. This is more an acknowledgement of things outside of the scope of a municipality to be able to trigger some of these things, like the development rights piece, like, you know, there are a variety of mechanisms out there that developers will use to do that. Yeah.
But do we have that system in place at this point?
No,
It's not.
I would say over the last 40 years that I've been here, I would say over 80% of the population growth in Pittsfield has been in the rural district.
Okay.
Easily.
Because I think people want what they want. If they want a private, in the woods kind of piece of property, they're not going to want to look in town, so.
Most of the lots in town are buildable lots or
Yeah.
built on, except for by the hospital.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, there's very little potential growth left in
Right.
the, you know, downtown Pittsfield area, so to speak.
Well, I guess
But there are a number of properties, homes within town that are
for sale.
have been for sale
Or
or
abandoned, yeah.
It
could
could
be,
use some growth.
Could use it either on down.
Well,
Do some
I guess
occupancy.
That's exactly what I'm getting at in
Right.
terms of, you know, and I know that there's some discussion going on to get some professional videos done and try to attract people to come to the area. And I don't know, I guess my feeling is I'm not looking for extra work for us or for me or for this committee to do, but I think we need to be part of some of that discussion to you know, I think your point was really good, that, you know, since you've been here, most of that growth has been outside of the center of town. I wonder how many people in town actually know that, who are living here now. I mean, you're an old guy, so you got 40 years under your belt here. But somebody like Ron, who just moved in, he may not know that.
Do you feel that, Tom?
I feel even older than what he said.
Well, I think there's also a number of items on the third page, strategies to encourage growth in growth areas. To my knowledge, a fair number of these are either not actively being pursued or have not been pursued at all.
Right.
So prepare a bicycle pedestrian path for down, or plan for downtown.
They've worked on that, but it hasn't
gone into
gone to
the
fruition.
So these, however many bullet points, I think is where we start with that strategy. Like, what are the holdups? What can be done under current plans? What can be done under current regulations? And what do we need to look at changing, if we should change anything?
Top of the list should be fix the roads.
I agree.
I think it all comes down to
Start spending money
money.
on this other stuff.
It all comes down to money and how much a citizenry is prepared to pay in their taxes. And you have to, you know, there's always two sides. There's the side where you don't raise your taxes, your town becomes more and more decrepit, you get more and more potholes, there's no growth, no one wants to come here because it looks like heck, and nothing ever happens. And then you increase the taxes, so there is money, you make the improvements, you build the things that will draw the people, and then the town grows from there. And I think that it's really hard, you know, how do you pick what is best? I mean, we all have a vested interest, we all have homes here, and our homes are not gaining in value because of where they are. And until we really and seriously want to invest in our town, they won't. And I don't know how to fix this. I really don't.
I think the first thing we need to do, Ann, is maintain what we have.
There's no money. That is the
Well, I understand
word
that.
from the top, that there's no money.
Absolutely, well,
Yeah.
we hit the big town meeting, and it went till 1:30 in the morning, we saw where the money was going. So,
Well, there's revenue, what do you spend it on?
Yeah.
That's bottom line, I mean.
So it's a matter of
people-
priorities
Right,
absolutely.
and you gotta determine what the priorities are.
and a vision.
A
For the
vision is
future.
really, really important. I don't think we have a vision.
And it's two pieces, right? Like, there's the infrastructure piece, which you need in order for
Yeah.
everything to build up, but there's also, right, attracting people to the community brings tax base,
Right.
and it's that balance of how much public spending versus
Yeah.
what we're not doing a solid job on is private-public partnerships to be able to bring investors and et cetera. I mean, we have a sign at the edge of the town that says business friendly, but what have we done to actually do substantive things besides hitting a couple of check boxes on a governor's list of things that need to be done to get that demarcation that actually helps to foster that, right? I think that's, some of that we have control over as a planning board and some we don't. I think we gotta figure out which.
You know, a lot of the business friendly stuff, you know, some of it has to do with Pittsfield, but the big part of it lays right at Augusta.
What's that?
You know, being business friendly, you know,
That's Augusta designation,
Right.
right? Yeah,
you know,
totally.
for a lot of it.
Yep.
I guess going back to the list that you're talking about here, and maybe it was a dream, maybe it was a nightmare. You know, the idea being that using, and I think there's still time to do this, but using the bicentennial year and the bicentennial activities to kind of kick some things off for the next 200 years, or it doesn't even have to be that far out, for the next 50 years. And are there some projects here? And, you know, we've had, I mean, Bill Cunningham has been working on something night and day to do some things that have the potential to bring some people into town. And what's that going to do? That's going to mean we're going to need some additional types of businesses, and you know, Papa Novas may have to cook a few more cookies and desserts, but that's a plus. But I just don't see any picture of the future here right now. And
Whatever happened to that money we got back from the state? Wasn't it almost $2 million?
sitting in the bank,
What's it doing?
sitting in the bank.
Why is it not being used to invest in us?
The money was, I think, put into investment funds, right? It was invested in order to continue or allow it to grow.
And we use the interest. The town uses some of the interest off of it on a regular basis. But
And I think, sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I think the concern of the town council at the time was that we had this big amount of money and then we just spend it all. I mean, because it wasn't 2 million. I don't think it was.
It was 1.8.
1.8,
1.2.
yeah.
So I think that would be pretty easy to go through. With, I mean, looking at the roads alone, you spend that on roads.
Who manages that or oversees that?
The council.
The council.
Town council does?
Coming back to your point, Jan, I think there's a lot of things here that, you know, if you read through this, you get the vision, you get the, you know, where the people who put this comprehensive plan together wanted to go. And I think it's along the same lines of what we're talking about. I think if we as a planning board are going to take any action, we should go through this list and say what's within our power to address or to push, what's not, and focus on those things that we can do something about.
I've got a proposal that I would share with folks. So, because we do have limited pieces of what we can do, right?
Right.
So, I mean, we can. So these are two changes to one to the site plan ordinance, one to zoning that addresses two issues that have been brought up before this body
Thank you, Ron.
that are in line with the comprehensive plan. So, start with the easy one on the backside of the zoning ordinance. So right now, the zoning ordinance is in conflict with the comprehensive plan. So if you look at bullet number 5, there's a piece in our comprehensive plan about developing Somerset Avenue as a gateway to the downtown. In this bullet, it talks about improved entry signs and traffic calming, but it also talks about the appearance and so forth. Right now, one of the detriments that we have in town is that Family Dollar wants to continue to advertise cigarettes right on the gateway to town, which I don't think is friendly for the community. Our comprehensive plan wants to see this as a family-centered community. You know, and I think we're going to see, I've heard this body raise other concerns when we were talking about the ordinance for medicinal marijuana facilities and knowing that that's coming. So, you know, I've put together one thing that the planning board could do, which is to add under temporary signs that temporary signs erected for the purpose of advertising cigarettes, alcohol, marijuana, or other controlled substances are not permitted, which is in line with our values, I think, that are outlined in the comprehensive plan, and would provide Steve, I believe, with the assurance that's needed to make sure that if we're advertising cigarettes and alcohol products specifically, or marijuana products, should that come. I think most folks that I've heard don't really want to see that as a upfront interface thing for people coming into town. The other piece that we could propose has come up regarding traffic. In the past, we've had Dunkin' Donuts was a great example. Dunkin' Donuts came in. The only traffic study that we had available to us was one that was conducted by the party that was applying for a site plan review, and as a result, we didn't really have an independent study by which to evaluate this that was looking at our interests as a community. And so, you know, here's proposed language that could go right into the adequacy of the road system that says, an independent traffic study commissioned by the town and paid for by the applicant is required for developments that exceed 100 or more peak hour trips for the purposes of assessing the level of service, right? Which is one of the things that we're supposed to assess, which we as a board can assess without independent information that's on our behalf. And so this would be something that, this doesn't mean we're necessarily deterring business. This actually gives the community discretion to say, we have TIF money, right? TIF money, the purpose of TIF money is to invest in economic development that is aligned with our values. So what this would do is give the leaders of the community the ability to say, okay, if we have, you know, if Nancy built to a point, for instance, that Pop On Overs was having 150 trips coming through, which would be great on a daily basis, right? Then the community could say, well, guess what? Nancy's business checks this box, this box, this box, and this box. It's rooted in the community. It's not here just to make a quick buck. And it provides value to the town, which are all things that are in our comprehensive plan. That provides a substantiation to say we should provide, you know, we could use TIF money or other economic development funds to help pay for this, you know, traffic. Or we could, it gives the ability in this that we can decide not to require that study. So I feel like it would enable more decision making using the guidance of the comprehensive plan for the leaders of the community and some discretion so that, you know, like right now, if we have another business move into the industrial park area that has traffic, it may be on them to pay for traffic calming in that area, which may deter that investment in the community. And this would put us in a situation, at least moving forward, where we at least have, you know, enough information to make a decision in an objective manner on behalf of the residents of the community.
So when you mentioned Dunkin' Donuts, you're saying that the owner did their own traffic study?
Correct.
Through
Yes.
Plymouth Engineering?
Yes.
Plymouth Engineering did the traffic study?
Yes.
Which was scanned by a professional engineer?
Yeah.
Which has done a lot of work for the town of Pittsfield. So that they're paying for that traffic study when they submit it, and you're asking them to do another one?
Well, they
pay
would
for another one through an independent.
They wouldn't have to
engineer.
do that if
If it's 100 more peak trips per hour, so they're paying for 2 traffic studies.
they wouldn't have to necessarily pay for that first one. They could pay for one that is overseen by the town, as opposed to one that is overseen by.
And that could be submitted with the site plan. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm proposing as an option. Because ultimately we want someone, right? If we hire a lawyer, we want a lawyer that is advocating on our behalf, not to take the counsel of a lawyer that's acting on their behalf. The same thing happens, right, for engineers. Like, we want someone who's advocating on our behalf. That's our charge, is to represent the people of the community of Pittsfield. So that feels like that information would be better if seen under the purview, so that it's very clear that this is being done for the purposes of the community of Pittsfield.
What would be the process of these ordinances getting into the book? We would have to send it to the ordinance committee?
Yes.
Provoke an order.
And we would have to have a public hearing, and then the council would have to have a public hearing.
We can propose an ordinance. We have to craft an ordinance. Once we feel that ordinance is worthwhile, we have a public hearing. The input from the public hearing, we will change or just send it to the council. The council does the same thing. It takes about 6 months to put together an ordinance. But this would go to the ordinance committee? Well, after we got it. After we got it. Yeah, after we put it together.
I put this out there, obviously not for us to vote on tonight, but just these are the type, just to give examples of the types of things that we can do to provide the discretion that supports the comprehensive plan without making it so that local businesses, for instance, have more burden on them, because I know that was a part of the concern looking over the site plan review, right? It gives some discretion. You know, ultimately, like that's like TIF money and things along those lines supposed to focus on the emphasis of this piece. And I don't know that we've necessarily been using the funds for that purpose, and I think that this would help provide guidance on that.
Well, I think that would deter people from building starting businesses in town.
Which one would?
Asking them to pay for an additional traffic study. If I was somebody that was starting a business and it wasn't gonna be right in downtown Pittsfield, maybe on the outskirts, I would just go to the town line and cross the line and put my business in. I wouldn't.
They have to pay for a traffic study already. All this is doing is saying that if you have more than 100 trips in a day, which is that's probably a retail business, right? That traffic study is done in the best interest of the community of Pittsfield as opposed to the best interest of the applicant. So they could have two traffic, if they're worried about it and they are concerned that those two traffic studies done in different pieces would conflict, then they might pay for two traffic studies.
But whether it's done by the owner or an independent, it still has to be approved by DOT, I assume. They're gonna look at that and, say yes or no. But you're basically saying to someone like Plymouth Engineering, who may be in good standing with, as a professional engineer, we don't trust your traffic plan, because you're working for the owner, so we're gonna hire an independent engineer to do the traffic study.
You're going to say, so there are pieces, the Dunkin' Donuts is a clear example, right? Like, I looked at I requested the traffic study. It wasn't provided to us. There was no oversight by this community whatsoever, and there was a piece that was missed.
But
right?
I assume DOT must have signed off on it, because they have to review that and sign off, so you get an entrance permit and all the other items.
Who knows Pittsfield better? People in the town that are helping provide guidance to the traffic study, the engineering firm who is working for the customer, or the DOT. I would think that the folks in the town of Pittsfield would have a better view and perspective to help guide that process.
Yeah, but the people in the town of Pittsfield may not have the engineering experience as far as traffic studies go to question or not question what's provided by an independent engineer.
But if they're the ones that are talking with the engineer, that data has to be like, when we look at those, we don't even have, if the town does that study, we have that study without even having to ask for it, right? All we get right now is a sign off that says if it meets this piece, there's no body for the community of Pittsfield that would actually review that traffic study, which does burden us, right? If we had a high volume, right? If we have a high volume person that wants to buy an industrial park lot and put in a high employment facility, they're going to come to us, and it won't be the cost of a traffic study. It's going to be the cost of controlling the intersection at the industrial park in Somerset Avenue, paying for the traffic upgrades for that, because that's what our ordinances require. Or if not that, the town of Pittsfield takes that on, and so we're paying for it as taxpayers, right? So I'm just saying there are a couple pieces here where it's just like, this is something I'm putting out there for us to beat up, and
I'd just be very careful putting any more burden on the owner submitting a site plan. And if that cost or that burden of the traffic control will be put on the town of Pittsfield, I guess, right? Mm-hmm. Then okay. But no, you're making the owner pay for that traffic study that's done by an independent engineer.
Right, and they have to do it anyway, right?
Either way.
And this would be that it's commissioned by the town as opposed to commissioned by the applicant.
Yeah, it's something to talk about.
Okay. Couple of interesting points.
Jan, I just have some different views on things like that, because I came to Pittsfield to live in a rural community. Now I'm hearing people say, well, we don't want people doing that, I bought 40 acres out there, I built a nice home, and now if I was to come to town, hey, I'm thinking about buying some land in Pittsfield, build a house on it. Oh, what are you thinking, Route 2? Oh, no, don't do that. Good God, you gotta come down here in town. Well, you know where I would go? Go check Palmyra, I'd check Detroit, I'd go to St. Albans, go to Heartland. I want to live in a rural community. Why are you going to tell me I can't live here? I have my own septic system, so the town doesn't have to take care of me there. I have a well. So I'm no burden on the town there. Okay, what's the problem? I live on a state road. What's the burden to the town there?
Where is there a proposal, Morris, that is having to do
You
with?
have something in this comprehensive plan to steer people away from the rural communities.
No, it doesn't. That was a misunderstanding in terms of what the language is in. If you look at that comprehensive plan piece, all it's saying is that the town, it's not saying the town is pushing development that way. It's not saying anything. It says that the town recognizes that market-based incentives can be utilized to plan development.
So why couldn't you use those and to steer, those incentives are used to steer growth away from valuable rural areas. Well, why couldn't we turn around and say, well, let's take some of those incentives and encourage people to live in the rural community?
I think the point of that line, you came into town and you bought 40 acres because you wanted to live in a rural community.
Right.
The purpose of that line is to make sure that the people who live around your 40 acres don't all buy up and split into subdivisions and Dunkin' Donuts and gas stations and so on
Housing
and so forth.
developments and, yeah.
Solar
It's
farms
keeping
and
it
stuff
rural.
like that, you mean?
Right, it's
But
keeping
I'm
it.
saying that for the community.
Really? Okay.
I mean, that, like, if I understand the language correctly, it's saying we want to keep Pittsfield as a rural community in the outlying parts where it's currently rural. Yes?
See, and I agree. I think the wording there is a little.
It is a little ambiguous.
It's a little ambiguous, a little misleading. But again, I think it goes back to something even broader than that, in that we need to talk about there needs to be a statement or something somewhere where people can talk about the vision for the community. And it's through that vision that we say that we want a rural area. You know, we can kind of come up with all the rules and regulations that we want to force things that we don't want to have happen, but maybe we need to come up with some that push things to do what we want to have happen. And you know, it would be interesting to kind of put together an ad for something, and that wording in there about the incentives and all that kind of stuff. That's somebody looking for a job. I'm sorry, and that's something that should be handled by the folks in town.
Can I ask a question? So what you're saying we should, it sounds to me like you're suggesting that we have some sort of community forum to discuss the vision. Roughly, yes? Am I misinterpreting you?
You're right on target, and I've been pushing that for 2 years.
So the purpose of that community meeting or town meeting or whatever, would it be to establish a new vision, or would it be so everybody understands the vision, not just within town but outside of town? Because we have a vision, right? We have a comprehensive plan. It has, if you read it, you get the vision. It's there, right? My contention is we're probably just not doing a good enough job selling it. We're not doing a good enough job marketing it. We need to get a better messaging program. We don't need a new vision.
Well, okay. So when I was 25 years old, my vision was to become a semi-tennis professional. I'm not 25 years old anymore, so guess what? I'm not going to, at my age, I can barely pick up a tennis racket. Okay, things change. And so the vision, yeah, there's a vision out there, there's no question about it. But the circumstances have changed. And I think, you know, that vision has got to be something that evolves. And I want to pick on Nancy for a second, but I'm not going to. But you know, maybe one of the things as part of that discussion that needs to take place is take a look at some of the newer businesses that have come to town, and you know, what's their impact been? What have they observed? And what kinds of changes need to take place? But if we're working with a document, whether it's this or something else that was done back in 1985, it's useless. Just look at the roads with all the potholes, you know, as a lousy example. So yes, we need a discussion to either take a look at, to make sure everybody understands what it is, and are there some things that, because certain things have happened, we need to do some things, we need to do some things a little bit differently.
So I guess I generally agree with a lot of the pieces in terms of needs for the community. I'm just wondering, in our scope as the planning board, like where our ability to do this is. And I'm seeing two, right? I'm looking at the town charter, you know, which we can advise the town manager on any matter affecting the physical development of the town. We can formulate and make recommendations, a comprehensive plan, or modifications, which we've already done and I think decided we weren't going to update, and review or make recommendations regarding council actions for the implementation of the comprehensive plan, right? So, which is the, you know, by ordinance adopt land use and development regulations. So, to me, I think the only two pieces, the only two actions that we can do to affect that are to adopt ordinances that are aligned with the comprehensive plan, right? Or to push, to ask for, or to make recommendations to the council or the town manager, right? I don't think it's the role of municipal government to do what you're talking about, Jan. I think it's the role of the municipal government, though, to engage in activities where it has its ability to do so to make this happen. One of the ways that that can happen is by becoming a Main Street community, right, where there is an entity outside of municipal government that is able to do these things. So I've had discussions with business owners in Skowhegan who say we can work on raising funds for the, you know, the white water rafting park because we are not the municipality, and then we can give that money to the municipality for a singular purpose. And I think that that's, I mean, as much as I would love for the planning board to actually do planning, that's not really our, you know, beyond the comprehensive plan ordinances, not really our job. I would say if we want to come up, and again, I'm throwing a couple out there, I'm sure we could come up with a number more if we wanted to workshop it. We could come up with those, or I feel like we could make recommendations to the council to say, you know, we look at this, we see the limitations that we have as a planning board, we're actually doing planning and we see this need, and here are some avenues that we recommend that the council engage in order for this to happen.
Yeah, I would call that gentle nudging.
Mm-hmm.
And we're basically on the same page, and I agree with you. You know, and just using Skowhegan as an example, I mean, that's what's happened there is pretty impressive. Now, that actually started about 15 years ago, and it took them a good 6 or 7 years to get out of the blocks because there was a lot of infighting, if I remember correctly. I had a newspaper back in those days. And there was a lot of discussion, but all of a sudden the community really began to come together. And you're right, the town, the government has certain responsibilities, we have certain responsibilities, but somebody's got to help a little bit. So, you know, I like part two better in terms of making recommendations to the council. And I would hope that, you know, maybe this discussion would continue to go. And this is going to sound really stupid, but I think in the eyes of some folks, on June the 19th, there's going to be a switch that gets flipped in a lot of people's minds and said, here are some things that we can really do. And you know, there's got to be something that happens to get those kinds of discussions going. And maybe June the 19th is going to be the date. And I'm just using that it was funny. For those of you that haven't driven by the train depot in the last 9 hours, looks very different than it did on last Friday. And I was walking into Buds, and the comment was, what's going on up there? That looks really neat. We need to build on statements like that, because what else can we do that looks really neat? to bring people into town.
But what's making that happen, Shannon?
An individual,
Right.
yes,
And small businesses.
small businesses.
Absolutely.
And so, I'm hoping that somebody like Nancy and a couple of other small businesses would begin to get together and have a dialogue on their own and say, what do we need to do to expand what we're doing, but to also bring other places to town? Because when you bring other places to town, that's going to be more business for her, could be more business for you. So,
And I don't want to speak for Nancy, but I would say as a small business owner, that many of us would like to have a resource in the community that could help do that for us, because we are so tied up with the work that we have to do.
Yep.
The idea of, as much as we would love to, the idea of being able to carve out time for an extended period of time to make that change requires an entity out there to carry, that needs the input of the small businesses that do work in this community, but that's their task, is to do that.
Yep.
And the Main Street program to become an affiliated community costs $500. That's it, to get into the program initially. And it hits on, I've been looking at this because I've been looking at this for 2 to 3 years. At the time that this was first brought in front of the municipality, it really needs some buy-in from the municipal government and there was no tie-in from the municipal government. But the beauty of it is it does exactly, for instance, we talked about the money that Ron brought up, which was $1.8 million of retirement funds that get kicked back to the town. The question is, what do you do with those funds? What a Main Street program does is it says, here's a catalog of programs, not just in Maine, but around the country, and here is what has worked. Here is where investment has spurred $1 of investment of public or private funds towards specific outcomes have led to $8 to $10 of economic activity for every dollar that's invested. And so otherwise, as you're saying, we have a comprehensive plan, but if we just go based on what the opinions are of folks who have an idea that sounds like a good idea versus like connecting it with proven outcomes, like the chances of maximizing the benefit of that money are limited. And that's exactly what the Main Street programs do, is there's actually a model for developing downtown and for helping to reinvest there. They go through, they train people, etc. And by participating in that, it actually opens the community up to funds from organizations like the Maine Development Foundation, right? That looks at certain initiatives and says, geez, guess what? A mill closed in Pittsfield. Where is there a nonprofit that we can help, that we could put money into to help spur things going on? If that vessel is not there and those things happen, right, we missed the boat.
and Skowhegan's not the only place that.
Right, Bedford has one, Waterville has one.
Waterville.
Yeah.
And some other ones down south too. So I think that's a real good possibility. So something to ponder, folks. Something to think about. Yes. Okay.
I would like to ask Brett a question about the engineering and that whole cost of the traffic study. You said are they paying the engineer like a lump sum, and that is part of what they are paying for, is that traffic study?
Essentially, yeah. I mean, it's part of their, like a bid package that the engineer would be charging the owner. They could give them a rough idea what the cost is going to be.
So if that engineer didn't have to do that study, would that be reflected in the cost that's charged of that person that is
Right.
needing to pay that?
And it's, it's stipulated, whatever, it's 100 per day, whatever that was.
Yeah.
You get to that threshold, then it has to be done. But I'm just saying,
We should have.
I just did my project, and it was
Yeah.
close to 5 figures between the permits, fees, applications, and that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
No, I'm just a small company, and I had no problem, because I wanted to be in Pittsfield. I'm from Pittsfield. Been here 50 of my 55 years. My family's been here for 100 years, so it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But it's burdensome. You have to spend that kind of money to,
But you'd still only pay that one time, right, Vaughn? You would only pay that once.
Right, and I'm not, right. This is, I don't think there's a cost to what has been, and it still needs more time. I mean, this is
Yeah,
something
no,
I
I'm
put
just
together
trying to
with
get it
some
straight
stuff
in
that
my
needs to be
head
worked out.
that.
I don't see this as additional cost, and I
Uh-huh.
think that, right, so
Right, yeah.
we have a comprehensive plan that asks us to support Brent's business,
Right.
right? Like your business, Brent, is laid out in here. I mean, it doesn't say new house construction, but it says people who are rooted in the community, that provide critical services to the community, that are gonna bring benefit and don't just see Pittsfield as a place to make a buck, right? I think we have several business owners in here who are totally aligned with that type of value, right? And this comprehensive plan charges us with making sure that that is the type of piece that we're supporting, right? The only TIF money that has been used since I have been on the planning board was to help extend a sidewalk as part of a Dunkin' Donuts project, right? And here's Brent coming up with 5 figures almost to pay for the various pieces, and there's something wrong in that. I'm sorry I didn't get my letter until I didn't open my mail, so I'm sorry I missed your meeting last week, but I think it's something we really need to look at in order to.
So essentially the town would hire its own representative engineering company that would work for us.
Be overseen by the tent. So again, I feel like with this, I would love for us to look through and workshop and say, what are some things, I mean, just like I would love to see everyone just come up with 2, like be forced to do, not, in a playful way, come up with 2 revisions to the ordinances that we could just sit and pick apart and just have a discussion on. Because I feel like the discussion would be valuable, and I think that it would help move us in a direction where we could say, because since I've been involved, even before I was on the planning board, we've looked at this document, and the crafting and updating of this document is what led to the Heart of Pittsfield, which I had helped in the creation of, right? And this was an inspiring piece of things that could happen, right? In terms of how do we do it? Because, right, we see our downtown, and you see, right, it's like on the growth piece, like this happened in cities all over the country, right, where people divested from the city and moved into the suburbs, right, and then the cities crumbled, and then the amount of public money that it took to get some of those cities back, Detroit, right, it hasn't recovered from some of that. And so, and we pose, even though we're a much different place than municipalities of millions of people, like if we don't have, right, young families, right, the idea of a critical piece for our community to survive is the attraction of young families, right, that can help revitalize some of the area. And it's a mix, but we're inordinately like moving towards the other end of the age spectrum. And young families want to see a place where they can walk their kids around. They can, on a Friday night not have to go home and cook supper, but maybe grab a beer and a bite of food, right? Like some of these things. And we do have some agency with that, with how we craft our ordinances, but also given discretion, because none of the stuff I'm proposing actually, it's meant to encourage your stuff, not deter it, so that we can kind of move it in that direction.
But we're ahead of the curve as opposed to a lot of the surrounding towns, right? As far as the amenities that the town of Pittsfield has. It just needs to be maintained and maintained.
Right, yeah.
Instead of adding more, let's maintain what we have, right?
Well, I guess it's a little bit of a mix, right? Because it's kind of like, right, for instance, if we bring in a new business, that's a good thing because it creates base, and you hope, some people have chosen it without us maintaining, right? Like we have some businesses, like our building is becoming pretty full with businesses that are moving in because they're like, downtown's kind of in rough shape, but I see the potential of everything else that's attached to it, right? But you can't let it go to a point where people can't see the promise in downtown anymore, right? Or else they're not going to come. And we're at that critical piece, frankly. I mean,
but I've got to defend us all, folks, too, because I don't want to walk my kids around. Because if I'm walking kids around, I'm in trouble. But I might need transportation somewhere. So
it's good having your grandkids in town,
yeah,
right?
Okay. Steve, what would you like to see with this? Anything at this point in time? This document?
I prepared it because I was asked to.
Okay.
And I was surprised to see that we'd done quite a few things on it. I didn't remember all that.
Steve, why do we have too many resource protection standards here? What does that mean? strengthening resource protection provisions on the second page. So be working with the DEP because we have too many standards above and above state standards.
You're on the second page.
Yeah.
Add standards, which one do you want to talk about?
Well, you're going to be working with the DEP on the resource protection zoning.
Oh, yeah,
What
that's,
is that? What does that mean? We have too many. Too many what?
we have too
Protections?
many resource protection areas. Remember I think it was our last council meeting, the last planning board meeting, that we refused the people to build a house out on the Watrous Corner Road.
Oh, right. Is that what this is about?
And yeah, that's what that's about.
Okay.
But since that meeting, Catherine has given me the authority to go ahead and make that whole change, to spend the estimated, what, $1,200, was it?
Really?
Yeah, so that's why I haven't supplied some of the things that was asked of me in that last meeting, because they don't apply anymore. We're gonna go ahead with it. I've been trying I've got the map sent to the guy from the DOP electronically, DEP, and I'm trying to set up a date to get out and meet with him. And he doesn't return phone calls or respond to emails very well, which I've sent several here in the last few weeks. But he has agreed to help us with that. It was his idea, not mine, and that's what that's about.
What was that, Steve? You got the approval for that to be funded and done?
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
It'll come out of my budget. I may not be
That's
here
okay.
in December.
So, question on that, Steve, is that 1,200 includes public notification, right? In terms of
That
advertising?
1,200 included, was the estimate from Kleinsmith to do the reprinting once we give them the information.
Okay, so it didn't include
It didn't.
posting notice?
No.
Okay.
But it's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, no, I'm just asking for clarification.
But if we have something else coming for public hearing, we can always tack it
Right,
on.
that's why I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure
Yeah.
that we
Plan
weren't
costs.
overspending.
Okay, nice discussion. I'm sure this will continue. So the thing that Ron handed out, we can kind of take it and ponder that a little bit. And some other things. One last comment about that.
I was just gonna ask a question, I mean, would people be up for coming up with can we workshop this in whether it's next session or the following session, and just workshop a couple of things that would, I wanna do the workshop on the site plan review, right?
Right.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
Why don't we do that? Why don't we do that first?
Just on the, yeah.
And put together. We're getting into the summer months here, and it may be difficult to.
Yeah.
And I think according to Steve, there may be some other requests. We could be a little bit busier this summer than we've been in the past.
Yeah, we're gonna be pretty busy, and
Okay.
when we have 2 planning board meetings in 1 month, that will really take a lot of my time. I spent most of my time on things other than enforcement, and really I ought to be doing enforcement. Well,
Okay?
So the next meeting was just like workshop?
No, we'll talk about that. We'll put it together.
I agree, I just want to make it clear that I do agree with, we need a comprehensive plan to look into the future. I think it's probably fine to go ahead and do some brain melding and so forth, but I still have this piece of me that says, we gotta maintain what we got. And until we can get a grasp on this, I mean, I hear people talk all the time about, was it Somerset Ave, coming down, about the homes. Well, look at the road, okay? And that's, the town can control that, okay? Not the residents, not take care of the homes. So, and you talk about people wanting to move into the community, whether it's I live on the other side of the interstate, so trust me, we feel very neglected out there, okay? I mean, I don't know how many other people here on the town, on this planning board, live on the other side of the interstate. But I can say, I live out there, and we feel neglected, and we feel like nobody cares about us up here. So, that's part of maintaining the town too, because there's a lot of people that do live out there, okay? And when we start focusing all of our resources downtown and not maintaining what we have out there, then you gotta think to yourself, well, what's gonna keep these people in town? Why are they invested in the town? The town's not invested in them. So that, we have to have a balance. When we do decide to get together, I think that we should try to reach out to all the different areas in town and invite people that can come in and offer their thoughts and opinions on things too, rather than have a small subset of people try to formulate a plan for the town. You know, to be very candid, it sounds a little bit self-serving. Okay, I'm being real candid there that, you know, if you got a business downtown, we're here to help, but if you're on the other side of the interstate, we don't need your input. Okay, so I like the idea of the plan. I'm just telling you, talking to the folks that live out the other side, because I do know more than a couple people in Pittsfield now. And I hear it from them. We get together and talk, and that's the thought process out there. So.
Okay, that's good.
I don't think your neglect is, I don't think that it's not shared with, I think that there are a lot of people in town, regardless of where they live, that are feeling that.
We've been feeling it longer than Vaughn, okay?
Make
We've
sure
been
you
feeling it
tell
longer.
What
the
could-
people that they are welcome to every meeting we have.
Mo, what are the, can you give just kind of some of the, what are causing some of those feelings?
Well, some of those, it comes from the roads is the big thing, which is everywhere now. But most people out there, they're not on city water, they have their own sewer.
Right.
They're very small burden on the town, very small, okay? Some of the roads, I'm not just talking pavement, but there are some roads out there where the branches and limbs and stuff are right out in the road. And, you know, I'm not talking Route 2, I'm talking, you know,
Yeah.
Fuller Road's all been cleaned up now, but,
Yeah.
I mean, in the wintertime, when everything was on those trees, that was a one-lane road. And it wasn't because of the snowbanks, it was because of the limbs coming out of it. And it's not just there, it's all over. I mean, that's the type of stuff that goes on out there. And I think the fellow there at the airport, I think he was getting a bad deal, honestly, about his hangar that he was trying to build. I think we made him jump through some hoops that I don't think he really, you know, we made it very difficult for him. And I tend to be a little more pro-growth than others. Say, if there's nothing that says he can't build it, why can't he build it? And Steve's got something in here, and Anna just brought it up, is we have things that are, this town has things that are more restrictive than state or federal stuff. And it deters people from building, which only increases their property value, which then the town will get more tax money for. But we make it so difficult for people to do that. I said, screw it, I'm not gonna do it. So who loses? The town's the one that loses. Because it hurts the valuation of the town.
But that, we don't have anything over state, we are, right, MUBEC is what?
Well, that's what I wanted to comment, is that there's a bill in front of the legislators now to make MUBEC statewide. Whether it passes or not, I don't know, but that's currently on the table.
Yeah, which would level the playing field for Pittsfield, but would make angry a lot of small communities.
One of the things that they're proposing in the new ordinance is that they would exempt buildings built before 2007, I think it was. I may be wrong on that date. But I thought, well, that kind of makes a little bit of sense. You're going to add on to an older home or something like that, there'd be some exemptions there.
Okay, there's a lot to talk about. Thank you.
Thanks.
And at least you didn't say the other side of the tracks. Okay, that's it. You have other business?
When we talked about the comprehensive plan, were we going to reschedule Ron's review of the site plan?
You want
Do you want to set a date for that, or?
You want to get back to us on a date?
Pretty much any Monday night.
Not for me though. Not this time of year. I mean, that's something I prefer to do. I mean, if you want, I'll try to get some input, but I can't. Other than that, I can't. I just don't have the time. I mean, that's something in the fall. Winter is better for me.
So when would it be? Are you thinking like September or December?
December.
December.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just don't have the
Sometime
time.
Do we have
scheduled later on in September, in December?
Do we have any authority or capacity to have discussions over digital media, via email or some sort of
I didn't follow what you were asking.
form?
I did.
Can we meet not here? Like, can we have a collaborative document where we look at the site plan review, everybody comments as they're able, and then we move
Yeah.
forward?
Oh, I think we could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could do it by email, it's not a public meeting.
Okay.
So it would come to me, so it would, it would be in the town's information.
Subject to FOIA.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
so it would end up being.
But you have to be careful with that, don't you? I mean, is that considered a meeting if it's 3 or more involved?
I know on the council, when I was on the council, you couldn't, you had to be pretty
I
careful.
don't think
Yeah,
that,
you gotta-
I don't know whether that involves us or not,
I don't know.
or whether that applies to us or not.
Yeah, we should watch, we don't have meetings that are announced and so forth.
Right.
But a workshop with a couple of people is acceptable as far as I know.
Why don't we,
Why don't we review what our capacity is to do stuff like that
Okay.
before we set a new date?
that's good.
Okay.
And as
Well, that's would be reasonable, because if, you have a moment, you can come up with some idea and maybe email them to Steve or
right,
whoever.
That I think is okay to do.
Right.
It's when we start discussing and then.
Right.
and maybe we can work on the site plan review and then work on several other things, and in December have a big workshop where we look at 3 or 4 different.
And what Vaughn's got here is
Exactly.
worth discussion, absolutely, so that'd be one thing to be put in there.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll reschedule that at a later date.
Yeah.
Get anything else for other business?
Well, yes, Nancy is here, and she would like to talk to you about placing a temporary storage building. I'll let you explain it, Nancy.
I'm really looking to expand our bakery, and I have space inside my restaurant. Vaughn knows why I wasn't able to do that. I mean, if I could get some TIF money for municipal improvements to plumbing, perhaps. But really, I want to buy a structure that I can put freezers and dry storage in. And I want to get a building permit to do that. I want to hire somebody and either purchase the structure and have it delivered, or have somebody build it on site.
So this would be a detached building?
Yes, eventually I'd like to have it attached,
I see.
but I like to do things one step at a time.
I would have the impression perhaps that you wanted an accessory building to store things in.
That's exactly what I want right now.
That should set on a temporary foundation.
Yes, no permanent foundation.
So if you read our site plan review word for word, it says she should have one because it's increasing her floor space. I kind of have a hard time with that for what she wants to do. What do you think, guys? Should we require a site plan review for that, or can we waive it?
Where's it going? Is it going behind, beside?
I have a parking structure, parking lot behind where Big Bill's is.
Right.
Where we park 2 vehicles. There's also a large trash dumpster there. So I would like to place perhaps a 10 by 10 structure there where I can put freezers and dry storage.
What are your wishes?
Would this be like a wooden building? Or
It'll be like one of the sheds that you see, or one of the gazebo type buildings with a nice roof. I know I'm not just gonna haul in an old chicken barn or something. I think I've proven that so far.
Are there always 2 cars parked back there?
Always, there's
Never
Always.
noticed it, Nancy, never. Don't
Well-
think I'd noticed the shed either.
So
Right.
I'm curious on is, if there's free, if there's electric power going there, what ordinance might say about that?
Right.
Dry storage, nothing, else is probably not much of an issue, but.
Well, I do have an electrician who will
Right.
be,
No, I just didn't know if that changes something along that line.
If it was a residential accessory building, it would be allowed. But it's, if you read the ordinances, you will find that commercial doesn't apply to commercial enterprises.
So if it were a house, you could put up an accessory building and it wouldn't be fine, but
Yeah.
because it's a business, we can't, or the ordinance says no?
Well, the other daughter doesn't say no, it says we should have site plan.
And it would sit within the property, okay? And
yes.
So we have to have a site plan review, you're saying?
Word for word,
Okay.
but we've waived them in the past.
Oh,
about a sketch or something would be
schedule.
nice, or just something showing
A
where.
sketch
Well,
of
I
what the
would-
building will be.
I would require
But
that.
just where it's
Right.
located.
Yep.
And I guess I would say, if you are looking at either a attachment or semi-permanent structure, try to have some numbers either way. It might benefit you that, if you can do a temporary, not temporary, but an unattached for X amount of dollars, and it's only 20% more to have it permanent
Oh,
structure
no,
attached.
it's much more to hire an engineer and,
Right,
I need to do this to just get the stuff out of my storage right now. That's what I need to do.
So how would this, Steve, from a building code standpoint, if it doesn't go through the site plan review, would she still need, does she need a building permit?
She would need a building permit.
Okay.
She needed a certificate that meets the requirements of MUBEC,
Can you,
which you can get from some of those mini barn places.
Right.
can you inspect that? Do you need to inspect that? Or is that the-
Technically, I can, but
the third-
if it comes as a package,
Right.
all done, I don't need to inspect.
Right, okay.
As long as we can get that certificate.
So looking at all of the other pieces, like this does not affect any of the stuff that we assess in a site plan review, adequacy of road system, utilization of the site, hazardous waste. I think the only piece in here that would be missing if it didn't go to a site plan review would be the notification of neighbors, right? Names and address of the property owners within a 250-foot circumference usually get notified of those things.
Right,
So-
there's a lot of people.
That is a lot of people, yeah, in that area.
Well, really, not a lot of people, a lot of places that
Right.
I would think one would cover it all.
Yeah,
One for Chimbro,
right, oh
one
yeah.
for the bank.
Residence
Banks
uses
and so
everybody.
forth.
Yeah, well, that's what I meant was, but
Right.
there's still, there's property owners that would have to be notified.
Yeah,
There's a
and
lot of them.
that would only be through site plan, not through building permit, correct?
That's right.
So I think that would be my only piece would be, it would probably be worthwhile to have, if we were gonna do a waiver, that there was a letter from a budding, from owners.
Is the need, like, 2 months ago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nance, does that sound okay with you?
My other option really is for the town to assess the value of my business and the value of the employees that I employ. And maybe I'm delving into something I shouldn't delve into, but the plumbing, I had a wonderful place, a nice, big, beautiful room where I could make a bakery like nobody's business. But the plumbing was $5,000. And I can't realistically justify spending $5,000 to enhance a property that I don't hold stake in. Okay. I believe that I'm an asset to this town. I believe that, no, I don't believe, I know it. I know who I employ. I know how many people I employ. And as far as Mo saying all of your focus is on people in town, I have seen nothing. As a small business, I have seen nothing from this town. So as far as the West Pittsfield thing goes, I'm happy with your focus being in town. You can stay out of my business in West Pittsfield, that's where I feel. I want my trees and I want my rural area. But I can expand my business. But I don't want to do it. Well, let's just say I haven't seen anything from this town. I've been here for 2 years. I've approached the town with water concerns. I've approached the town with other concerns, and what I hear is anything that the town supports has to do with big business and bigger business than me. 20 employees isn't enough. $500,000 in revenue isn't enough. That's what I hear from the town. I'm too small. So that's my other option. I don't want to have to put a storage shed and put my freezers in there. I really don't want to do that. I want to have a bakery, which was in the comprehensive plan. I am not a bakery. People call me a bakery. I'm a cafe. I'm an ice cream shop, coffee house. Yes, I do baked goods, but a bakery makes bread and cakes, and yes, we do that, but we are very limited, and that's why we're expanding, because our bakery business is growing. So, does that make any sense, what I'm saying? So.
Any motion?
If we make a motion, but we can make a recommendation, I would say it probably makes sense to belt and suspender it, right, in terms of moving with multiple approaches at once. And I would say for this board, I don't know where other people are, but to me, as long as it meets building code and meets setbacks, and
which is not a problem because there's no setbacks.
because it's
in
for
C1.
accessory for C1. So, right, and then nothing that we're going to review out of this site plan is going to be anything more than what Steve needs to do for the purposes of a building permit, except for notification of input from neighboring.
This would be one suggestion I would make for the site plan review, is make some wording in there so that we could legally waive some of these requirements if we so wanted, or waive the need.
Make a note of that.
Thanks, Ron.
No problem. Yeah, I agree with Mom, right? Like if it's just as simple as notifying the neighbors and getting the building permit, I say waive the site plan review.
Well, is this a preliminary site plan review?
Well, if we send out notices to the neighbors, how are we going to get their input?
Listen, this is what I would recommend would be for Nancy to get some sort of, put together a form document and have it signed by the folks that are within proximity.
And how far is that proximity? Is that Sebastopol or the Northern Light now?
Our warehouse.
The bank. Timbro. Who else do I need to approach? The town office?
Do you have a storage shed picked out?
I've shown Steve a couple different ones.
I mean, what I would recommend is just an elevation of that, or just a site sketch where it's going and submit it. You know, and maybe do a.
Well, yeah, that would be, I would require that for a building permit anyway.
Okay.
Isn't this temporary, what she wants right
So
now?
I make it permanent, so.
Are we making this
Well-
difficult?
No, well, the site plan says we have to, it says specifically here, the construction or replacement of any new building or structure for non-residential use, including but not limited to accessory buildings, accessory structures, so that's.
But that, you
Right
can
in
do
the
a
first
preliminary
place.
site plan review, right, and we can say, no, you don't need to do a
Right.
full-blown one, and I guess that's what this is right now, right? Is that what we're doing?
Kinda.
Preliminary site plan review?
Yeah.
Yeah, pre-application meeting.
Right.
Does this mean she has to wait another month till we meet again?
Well, here's the thing, Steve also warned me that I would be out of compliance if I did anything without the approval. I perhaps will be out of compliance. I have nothing to hide from anybody. I have Pittsfield's best interest at heart. I understand code, I understand being in compliance, but I also understand that, I got work to do, and I have to do it. So even Vaughn, he bent over backwards to get me into a place that isn't working. And I should have been in there, what, 2 months ago?
Could you make a
So-
motion to allow a temporary building for a certain period of time, and at the end of that period of time, she shall provide us with we're going to do a site plan review at that point in time?
Yeah, why not? Right?
Right, it doesn't have to be a site
Yeah.
plan, it could just be another
Another review.
preliminary review of the review, or whatever.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Review it again and whatever.
But you can just have some details provided, and that's good enough, I think.
12 months, okay?
So can I go pick out a structure tomorrow, bring it to Steve, and Steve says, yep, see, I have these plans here, and place it there? Essentially, that's what I'm asking for tonight.
But let's go through the permitting process first. Well, wait a minute, no, if it's a temporary structure, we could say we could. I'm not sure, I was just trying to, do we want to issue a building permit? Or if it's a temporary structure,
I would
we
say,
don't have to.
Just do the temporary.
I'm not a huge regulatory fan, but I would say with accessory buildings that it would be worth your while to have a building permit because it forces some of the sheds that are built, they only meet code if the roof gets shoveled off. And where this is gonna be a commercial application,
Right.
I would
Right.
either have, it would be nice to have, or maybe just me saying to you, Nancy,
I
it
will
would be good to
certainly
make
make
sure
sure
that
that
it
it's a good
meets.
quality
it meets-
structure.
Right, that
Right.
it meets, but that it meets the building code for, ask them if they've delivered to Bangor before and whether the roof is the same roof that they put in when it's gone into Bangor.
Well, basically,
Right.
if they say it's, it'll be covered by Lubec.
If you should buy one from the barn place over
I
in
mean, Hill Barnes or something, and
pardon me?
there's like
Hillview Farm.
Hillview.
Hillview Barnes, yeah. They're familiar with it. They can give me that paper I need that's built to code.
There's also the Amish people in Unity.
Do they have the certificate from an engineer as well?
They do.
Okay, yeah.
I know.
You
them.
work with them, right?
I know them a little bit, yeah,
Right.
they do, yeah, and Hillview does as well, so just make sure that they have.
Well, yeah, I can issue a temporary building permit.
Yeah.
Do I hear a motion to authorize this guy here to issue a temporary building permit on behalf of the...
I guess the one question I just have is, I mean, just from a, like, we're, as a planning board, sticking our necks out a little bit, and I think it would be worthwhile, like, the bank, right? So like the bank and SBH, at least having some, because they're gonna be the two parties that are gonna be most likely, if there's someone who's gonna be upset about it, that may be the parties.
Immediate neighbors?
What's that? The immediate
Yeah.
neighbors,
Yeah,
yeah, I feel like,
I don't see
I don't know how
250 people.
that'd be reasonable for you to get something in writing from them saying that they're good with accessory structure there.
I
Fair
can
enough,
do that.
Nancy.
I can do that. Did anybody see the garden I had made out back?
I did, I like the buckets.
Thank you.
We're still looking for some kind of a motion. Pending, how about something along these lines? Pending,
Certification letter.
pardon?
Having a certification letter.
You authorize a temporary building permit, so you need to say.
Okay. And
And
asking,
require the letter.
and asking Nancy to send letters to the people in this.
To,
So-
yeah, to obtain letters from.
Right.
Obtain
Or to send
permission-
letters.
Obtain permission,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'll take, we'll do a temporary building permit with abutting or surrounding business owners,
Being notified.
being notified.
Okay. We kind of have some kind of a little motion there. Is there a second?
And a second?
You know,
Any further discussion?
I would just amend it, as opposed to sending letters, permission from budding landowner. Is that right? Can I do a friendly amendment?
I'm
There
sorry.
would be permission from, rather than sending letters to, permission from adjacent property owners.
I'm sorry, I still didn't get it.
Permission, instead of sending a letter asking permission, just get authorization from a budding.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least you can
Ask for
hand carry
permi-
it.
Ask for permission from,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I just have a question now. What happens if somebody says no?
That is important information, I think it's important information.
No, I agree, but
Yeah.
now I'm kinda like, okay, we've opened this can of worms, so.
It's contingent, the temporary
You
barrier.
know, what happens if the guy at the Biddle says no?
Cross the bridge when we.
Vittles isn't my direct neighbor.
No.
He's within 250 feet.
Yeah, I
That's
don't-
not what,
We're not doing that
Or
250
surrounding.
with a temporary permit.
Okay.
Just the abutting neighbors.
Okay.
What would the land plan?
I think if they say no, then we can't, by the motion, we can't issue the permit.
Yeah, we'd have to come back and go to Plan B, whatever that might be.
Make a very nice.
As you visit,
I'm sure.
Pastry.
bring a nice pastry or something.
Not for us, for your neighbors.
that's
Oh,
what
wait a
I
minute,
forgot
hold on,
tonight.
hold on. Okay, if there's no other discussion, we'll take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
I,
Aye.
All those opposed? Ayes have it. This will be done by Friday.
This will be done very soon, very quickly.
We have another person that would like to talk about, Brad Fisher. I didn't know he was coming tonight, but Catherine phoned me later on that he was, or earlier. Brad, you'd like to talk about your concerns with your parachuting operation?
I don't know, after listening to this meeting, I'm almost afraid to ask for anything. Brad Fisher, I own Vacation Land Skydiving at the airport. I have the property adjacent to the cemetery on Peltoma Ave that abuts the airport under contract. We would like to move our ground facilities to that location. However, we've been at this process now for 6 months. Well, in a week and a half, it'll be 6 months that I first contacted Catherine.
Brad, could I ask you to speak up just a little bit?
Yeah, so basically, what I understand is I need permission from this board to use that property for our business. We started a site plan review process with CES Engineering, which was following your code, and they came back with an estimate just to start at $7,100, and then they need more survey information. For what we're doing, we're taking a shack, we're going to use it as a check-in point for customers, and we're going to park some cars and some grass. $7,100 and just not even reasonable. We're gonna put a restroom facility in the shack eventually. There's water at the property. We'll have to do a septic. That was part of the 7100. That's a reasonable request to do a septic design, all that good fun stuff. But we need permission just to get there and use this property. And I really need to know how to do that without spending $7,100 on a $15,000 project, which is cost prohibitive.
Which property is it? Is it abut Peltoma?
Split Bartlett's old property across the street with the monuments.
Exactly.
Oh, right there, okay, that's spot.
Yes, yep, exactly.
Brad, what was CES providing you for $7,100? Was he gonna develop a site plan?
They were gonna do a site plan review, the application, all the permits for the, because we wanted, to build out on the building with the bathrooms. So they're gonna do all that.
And you gonna renovate the building?
We wanted eventually, and I'm not opposed to the permitting process for the construction. I'm just opposed to the exorbitant cost it was gonna run. We want to put a bump out on the back of the building, classroom size, and put a restroom facility in there. That's the scope of our construction.
You said a septic field?
Yes.
And
that was part of the $7,100 was the septic field design.
I mean, that can be designed by a soil scientist, right? And then no paid parking or anything like that?
No paved parking, just leave it as it is, park on the grass, roped off. We're not big on permanent structures because we're a hobby business and we don't have a ton of money.
Yeah.
So,
would that require, is that a commercial?
Yeah.
So you wouldn't be able to inspect the building?
I wouldn't be able to inspect the building.
So one of the things CES brought up, and this is why we're sitting here besides the cost, is they said we're not even sure that, according to the town documents, that the use of this property would be permissible by the town. So I called Steve and he said, I don't know, you gotta come to the meeting. So, so that is why I'm here.
Do you know where it is?
Yeah, I'm just looking at what
Wasn't it already
zoning district
commercial?
it's in.
I think that's in C4, isn't it?
It's in the residential, where's the, right there. So it's in C4 rural district.
Then that's not in the commercial overlay district. But it does talk about, I didn't know Brad was coming, so I don't even have a use chart here with me.
I'll pull it.
Our definition of what's allowed in C4 is a cloudy one. It has to meet one of the following conditions, and one of those conditions is so many traffic trips per day. But it only has to meet one, and there's some that I would have to say that use would be permitted in, because you only have to pick out one of those things. Maybe one can read them to you.
Yeah, I'm going to table P.
That was a commercial business prior to that, correct?
Yes, that building was used for commercial use.
So you can lose that in between?
So yeah, I gotta read
Here, yeah, thank
So
you.
it would be changing the use of the building, because if it was already used for commercial.
Well, you have the ability to reinstate a business use if the building is of such configuration that it doesn't make it practical for any other use there. Not exactly worded, but there is that provision in our ordinance.
What's in that building now, Brad?
Nothing, it's a shack.
It's just used
There's
cut
no
stone?
electric.
No electric?
It's concrete floor, four walls, roof. That's it.
Just
And you have
storage
a
space.
bakery there.
Yeah, right.
What's the dimension of the building roughly?
Oh, I bet it's probably 16 by 24, something in that neighborhood.
It's not very big.
No, it's not. You couldn't park. You could probably get 2 cars in there if the opening were bigger.
So you were talking about using the end of the airport for parking.
So that is one of the things that came up is one of one of the questions here was the traffic count. I think we're going to violate the traffic count. So we've asked the town, literally, we've asked them 4 times in writing if we can use the east side gate of the airport as staff in overflow parking. And,
Why do you think you're gonna violate the 25 average
because on
of 25 car trips or more
on a
of
weekend,
retail customers per
in
day?
the summer, after school gets out, through June, July, and September, we can run 16 to 20 airplane loads of customers, and the unique thing about our business is you might be my customer.
Mm-hmm.
You're going skydiving today, but you bring 20 visitors with you to watch it because
Mm-hmm.
it's such a spectacular event.
How many people do you serve in a year?
About 1,000.
Right.
So in different capacities.
So if you read this to the letter of the law,
we're going to
it
violate
said
the parking.
no, you'd have to have 8,000 people come through there to violate the letter of the law as written because it says attracts an average. It's eligible if it attracts an average of less than 25 car trips of retail customer per day.
And that's
There's
the average
365
customer.
days in a year, and there are
Okay,
25.
so on average, I will not violate that.
That's one of them that I thought we could hang our hat on.
Mhm.
That's seasonal too, isn't it? I mean,
That's very, yeah, we have some hardcore guys.
I've seen it in the wintertime, but yeah, primarily.
We have a hard time in the winter because we can't get hangar space in Pittsfield, so the plane goes elsewhere, and it gets snowed in. But when we can get our hands on a plane in the winter, nice clear day, not too cold, we'll go out.
Now, is that your outfit, the other end of the abandoned runway? Is that you, or is that someone else down there?
What do you mean now? We're the one that off the bright yellow jump shack along the tree line.
Yeah.
That's us.
Yeah.
So, and Caleb's looking to build hangars down there as well, which is going to effectively shut us down.
Okay.
So it's kind of like move or get moved. So we can't operate once he puts those hangars in there anymore.
Right.
So just for clarification for those that don't have this table, under principal uses, it includes other non-retail uses, including civic and recreational, obviously recreational, are permitted if they meet traffic standards C and D above. C is attracts an average of less than 25 car trips of retail customer per day and occurs less frequently than 15 days in a given year. This says and, which is ridiculous. Or retail uses which meet, one or more of the following. This portion is really clunky.
Yeah, I hate that section.
Because but it does seem to say, I don't know why they say and, because it initially says or, so it should be eligible if it attracts an average of less than 25 car trips of retail customer per day. It's already non-conforming because the lot area is supposed to be 2 acres. I don't think that lot is a 2 acre lot, is it?
That lake, well, another thing we have in front of town is a boundary line agreement because the title work on that property is pretty difficult to understand. It's been chopped up so many times. I think it's 2.53. I don't have if the town concedes to the boundary line agreement.
No, is that big?
It's 2.53 acres, and I don't see a downside to the town agreeing to that.
Yeah.
I don't think that was meant to limit business on a lot, existing lot.
Right.
If you were forming a new lot, that's when you want 200 feet of frontage in a certain acreage, so forth.
Yeah, so I don't have the exact with me, but it is greater than 2.
What are your wishes?
The bathrooms were going to be added maybe later, just go with the porta potty or something like that.
At this point, it's can we use it?
Right.
if we can use it, then I can go ahead with the purchase. And then we can work on the building permits and the designs, and I just got a great idea because if the sheds are already got the Yamoka code, whatever, I'll just buy one of those and put it on there and put a bathroom in that, and save it over but I'll deal with that down the road. It's just kind of, I don't want to buy a property you're going to say, no, you can't develop and work on.
There's plumbing existing there already, or you're having to put in?
I will have to
new
put
septic.
there's water to the building, but it is in the ground. It's not into the building. So, or at least I'm told.
So you're proposing to put a temporary bathroom in there?
Well, we'd use a porta potty just like we do on the other end of the.
Okay, all right.
So.
So he's right, back of some residential houses and so forth with his parking area, and people are gonna be walking to their office if he gets allowed to park on the end of the runway. I would think that we would want some chance for the neighbors to have some input on that as well.
Is that the drop zone, that end of the runway now? Is that where they're being?
This location that we're discussing now is the opposite end of the airport from where we operate currently.
I understand that, but where are they going to be? The parachute is going to be landing, because usually don't they land down where your shack is?
Yeah, they'll be landing on this side now.
Back towards Pelton, where you want to.
Right.
Okay.
Correct. So.
As far as use of that land for property, I don't know what decisions have been made there. I guess probably would be a council decision, I would imagine.
It'd be a council decision. What for?
To use the end of the closed runway for parking.
Oh, right. Yeah. There's more components to this whole thing. Tree removal, asphalt removal, and unfortunately the town submitted their DEP applications without consideration for this project because they're too tight on time, but I won't get into that because it's really upsetting and pissing me off. And then parking. So we'll have to address those three things with the city council, because and the FAA and the airport committee and the airport, because I don't think those are planning board issues, but I have no reason not to take them up with whoever will decide them.
So from us, what do we need?
Well, I guess that ordinance is allowed uses is worded so clunky, or whatever Bowen used to describe that word, that it frustrates me every time I have to deal with it. But from what I can read, if he expects an average of less than 25 car trips per day, he's allowed, right? It doesn't say an average over 3 hours or 2 years, but I guess an average you'd probably say would be 1 year. But
you got to. You pick the average of the day nobody's there.
So if you guys are comfortable with that as an allowed use, then we just have to decide what
then it goes to site plan.
Site plan review.
And how many days out of the year are you using this for?
Our real season, like our advertised start, is this coming weekend, May 18th. We'll run weekends only, Friday and Saturday through the end of June. Then we'll run Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday through the end of August. So you've got 3 months of 4 days a week, and then 2 months of 2 days a week. So you're almost 100 days.
Okay.
And then with our regulars and our instructors and stuff, we'll run periodic days. We've been when the sun's been out on the weekends for the last couple of weeks, we've been out there having some fun. But
so does this project only work for you if that building is expanded?
Say that again.
Does this project only work for him if there's an expansion to the existing building?
So there's a growth component to the business. We're kind of at max capacity of what we can do in the building we're in now. That building is kind of the same building we have.
Mhm.
It makes no sense to buy this if we can't expand.
Mhm.
So does it work as we operate now? Yes.
Mhm.
Does it allow us growth?
Right.
No. And if we don't have the opportunity for growth, are we going to say no? So it doesn't make money it doesn't make sense to stick all that money into a project that you can't get the money out of.
Right, of course.
So
How about setback requirements from building onto that building? If you,
we would go backwards to avoid.
and that you have room to go back and do that?
Yeah, your setbacks are 50 feet.
No, the setbacks are.
Is for that one?
Yeah, 50 feet, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So I don't think there's any way we encroach on those.
Okay.
So
So
Hate
do
to
we
see you
have to
spend a
do-
lot of money on something like that, snub you up, that's all.
right. It would be pretty.
The question I have is, where would the parachute ers get into the plane?
Well, we're gonna have to employ golf carts until such a time as we can go back to the DEP and revise the applications and get the hot top out of there. So we'll be shuttling everybody back up to the apron where the planes are now.
Not with the airplane, because they're
Right.
noisy was my concern.
Well, I'm not worried about the noise because it's an airport.
Well-
The grand plan will be to remove hot top, leave just enough of improved hot top there to bring the plane in that end, load and depart from that end, but the hot top's not in any condition.
So would you taxiway up to the north and south runway?
Yes.
You wouldn't be hitting the throttle down there next to all of those people, is what I was getting at.
No, the plane will, in none of the plans will the plane be at the far end of that inactive down where the residential is.
Yeah, okay.
So our goal would be to be good neighbors. We don't, we're a little daunted by this task and by being shut aside by the town a few times. There's no question about that. We're 6 months into this, but we don't want to get into a project where we're battling with everybody already.
Why are you 6 months into this? What's happening?
So my original request went upstairs via email, and I didn't get a response, so I shot another email.
To whom?
Town manager. So the second email didn't get a response, so I picked up the phone and called, and this is the end of November. And I was told by the young lady that Catherine's not in, so I asked for a voicemail, in which Kathy answered her phone. She told me she was in budget season and didn't have any time to meet with me.
Really?
And she asked for me to send her an email. Send her another email. And then I met with Steve a couple times, and we went back and forth. We talked to Kathy. We were supposed to be on the city council meeting a couple times, and like tonight, my counterpart showed up, and nobody was expecting us, but he got Kathy to agree to a meeting. That was about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, Steve. Caleb, Steve, Kathy, myself, and my counterpart sat down, and that after that point, I had enough direction that I hired CES. Found out that we're just, for what we're trying to do, this is just way too much. So, here I am.
So, obviously, your purchase agreement's contingent on approval here.
Correct.
And what you've seen for cost so far, you're gonna proceed if you get approval here?
If I can get approval here, we're gonna close on the property.
Okay. You're
Which
gonna
will make
proceed
the seller
and do-
very happy
okay.
at this point. So, we just have to know that, we won't be, told this is not a permissible use for the property. We can work on all the other stuff, as we go. So.
I guess one of the concerns me is they give you the go-ahead, and there's an issue with setback, or we haven't seen a site plan review or a boundary line agreement yet.
Right.
Or maybe the place wouldn't test for septic system, which I think is very doubtful.
I guess the question is, and you said, I'm talking to Nancy, I think, I'm sorry if you got that right. you said we've waived site plan reviews before. What in a site plan review for this project is really necessary to say, yeah, you can operate your skydiving company out of this lot? I don't know what the site plan review is really going to tell us. I know what the engineers told me.
So the biggest pieces are, I think for yours would be parking and traffic, right? That would be one. Septic.
And septic, completely understand that one. Those are pretty easy to accomplish.
Right, but that's $250 design.
Yeah,
and that's
or 1,100 if it's CVS.
No, yeah, don't go there.
Right, no, I know better than that.
Yeah.
So, and
those are the two, I think those are I mean, looking at a lot of these, most of them would be boilerplate.
Right.
Off-stand unless there's a Nash,
right, so
right adjacent to the airport.
Where we're parking on grass, where we've ascertained the traffic is well below requirements. Is that not a good project just to waive the?
A lot of that you can do yourself with the help of Steve. I'm not volunteering Steve, but
right.
to get so you don't have to.
I was going to mention that a lot of that stuff. I mean, they want you to tell where your wintering yards are. Well, you say it's an open field in the residential area or whatever, and you just answer the questions as best you can, and then these people decide whether you did it right or not.
Right.
And the other thing that, Vaughn, that you might read is the qualifications of what requires a site plan review.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's basically the expansion of an existing non-residential building that increases the total floor area is what triggers the site plan review.
Right.
So if there's a commercial extension, and basically the idea is to see whether, right, it impacts the physical environment around it or the services to the site that wouldn't be picked up by Steve's building permit, right? So, and that's mostly, I think, right? That's mostly going to be the.
Yeah, it takes a little time, but you can do it.
Right.
You can email you the form and PDF, and you're just gonna type underneath each thing. It's fairly straightforward.
Which we have, but I can do it again. I've emailed that information.
Yeah, the last time you indicated within the email that you'd sent it, all the other attachments were there, but that actual application was not. Which is fine.
I'll do it again.
Yeah, please.
I didn't realize that happened.
So, and at that point, it wasn't worth calling you back because we employed CES anyway. So
the traffic would be the only, and you're going to use the existing access to that end of the abandoned runway.
Yeah, as far as the airport goes, there will be nothing. Like our customers will literally shuttle on a golf cart right down through the tree line.
Oh, so you're going down behind your property to the
right. So
you'll be controlling access to the runways for security, right?
Correct. Right. We are running the risk that the FAA drops a fence there one day. I think that's highly improbable, which is a risk we're willing to take. But yeah, that's
So, and some of this will be, I mean, you can go, I would recommend going on the website and looking under the ordinances, because it lays, all this stuff's on there. Because I mean, the internal vehicular circulation stuff is stuff that's just gonna be, you just have to say, we're not gonna receive delivery vehicles, so that doesn't apply. There's an emergency vehicle provision in here, layout and design of the parking areas, just so people who come and visit your property aren't gonna.
When we have those fun visits from the emergency vehicles, they come in through the airport. Right. Gravity wins every now and then.
Yeah.
It's usually a broken ankle, just for the record.
But I think you're right.
Yeah.
In terms of, there's a little bit of do-it-yourself here that would go a long way.
Is there anything there that says, Bradley, this is an investment you shouldn't be making because the town is going to say no at some point?
Neighbors.
I'd get, you'd like the approval
consent.
so we sign the contract.
Neighbors.
Right, and I haven't personally spoken to the neighbors, but others have, and I will personally speak to them before I write a check. But apparently they're all like, yeah, whatever, no problems. So, of course, that's hearsay, so we won't play that game.
Yeah, I'd go through the process
Yeah.
and get the, notify the budding landowners and
Right.
give them an opportunity to come in.
I can get you a list of those abutters.
Yeah.
That would be helpful.
Yeah, Steve can help you on a lot of, like I said, I'm not volunteering, but there's a lot that's readily available that's,
Right.
can get you through it.
Because, yeah, it's mostly gonna be roads and
Yeah.
and sewage, and that, I mean, I don't know, I don't know that we can actually do anything formal today. I can say from experience that when folks have come in front of us with explanations for this, that most of the time the planning board has been very accommodating. I think it's a fair.
I wonder if there's any way, and I don't know if it's a formal vote or not, but can you agree that the ordinance is interpreted so that this would be an allowed use?
For C4?
Yeah, for C4.
Everyone would need to see it for a vote, right?
Well, you read it.
Why don't I? I'll pass around. I use that once more. C4, so right there.
I don't know if, if we're agreeing with your interpretation, I don't know that we need a formal vote.
No, I just wanted to get your general feeling of the thing here.
Yeah. But like yeah.
The biggest thing is it's a non-residential use with under 25 average trips per day.
25 car trips, every cars per day.
I don't think it can be, I don't think we should include sightseers at all. Anybody can stop along the road and say, oh, look, yeah, plane going up, jumpers, whatever. You can't be held.
Let's say retail customers.
Yeah, we have a ton of people that just walk into the airport now and, just come hang out and watch.
I don't see how you can count that.
Exciting.
It's something that's not under your control.
If you're still talking the car count on average for
That gets into
a year,
traffic.
Mhm.
Right.
I mean, it's,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it would have been interpreted for a year period.
Jan,
Yes.
you have another, that page in your ordinance, if you'd like to take it out and pass it around.
Yeah, sure. Page. What's the
Site
page?
plan review. No, excuse me, chapter 13.
Table P.
Chapter 15.
Yeah, chapter 13. Okay.
I'm sorry to hear that you've been having. Not worth it.
No.
Acceptable without use.
Yes, ma'am.
Am I allowed to speak?
No.
Because I might go home.
Go ahead.
Okay, but before I speak, is this the first time you guys have heard of this? On the
Correct.
planning board?
Correct.
This is the first time you guys have heard about it? On the planning board?
Yes.
Heard about what? Yours?
Heard about this? 6 months he's been working at it?
Well, it doesn't,
Upstairs?
nobody talks to me out in the willy wags anyways.
I'm on the other side of the interstate.
It's none of my business. But this is exactly, he's a proven neighbor. This is exactly what we need. He's already proven himself. He's a neighbor to us all. So we should go out of our way to take care of him.
There's a body that we report to who oversees the position that you are having concerns with, and I would highly recommend writing a letter to that body, which is the town council, with your concern.
Thank you.
I just want to make a point of clarification. Yes, I will allow you to speak.
Oh, okay, thank you.
So for those people that are sitting at home, kind of gritting
So
their teeth.
it is kind of intimidating to sit here and have you folks, be discussing this. And this isn't supposed to be an intimidating room. we shouldn't be put the burden of our lack of clarity on him. We should say, we need to fix this because this is the kind of people we need in town. Does that make sense? And I'm not attacking anybody.
I think that's what we're doing.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
message is we're trying to help.
So-
Remedy the situation.
Hope to see you at the restaurant. You won't? No, I'm just kidding.
I think you see a lot of our customers also in London, don't you?
Thanks, everybody. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and just for clarity, a lot of this that we go through is to make sure that if we're gonna use discretion, that we're making sure that we're very clear through that, so that we document it, so that we're not putting the town in a challenging position.
I have no problems with having handling.
Yeah.
I think that that use chart was supposed to have said the condition has to meet all three of these below. It doesn't, it says it has to meet one. It doesn't make any sense, but that's what it says. That may be one thing that we might want to try to clarify someday.
So proceed with the site plan review, right? That's the next step?
Yeah.
Put that together.
I think that would be the logical next step.
Yeah.
That doesn't need to be a motion.
Right.
So if that's something that you want to do, that's your decision.
Right. I think as long as nobody has any concerns with what's written there, then go forth and process.
Depends, if you come after December, we may have totally amended that by December.
Open season, so how
Right, no,
how
no,
aggressively I'm gonna work on this going, because I have a real full-time job, and then 4 days a week on top of it, and then the family, the kids in high school, and everything else, so how aggressive I'm gonna work on it this time of the year, you know, it's kind of this time limit, so. But that's really why I wanted to sit here, is because, you know, they won't hold this property for me forever. He's been gracious at this point about, you know, putting it on the market for sale. If I can capture the property, then I can work on the details later. But knowing that I'm not going to run into a use roadblock.
Right.
You know, I can't think of a single reason why putting an addition on that building would create any issues that you would say no for. So it's formalities of building permits or whatever. The same with the septic. The same with you know, everything else there. So it's just, you know, the comfort of knowing that if I buy this property, I'm going to be able to use it. That's kind of it.
So do you feel comfortable with what you've heard tonight?
I think so.
Okay.
So, and I want the city council in another week to see if they'll agree to the boundary lines. That's the big one, because that's the legal. If there's no discernible title, according to two title attorneys, they can't identify all the boundaries. So the boundary line agreement is just between the town and the landowner saying that these are the agreed upon boundaries. So it doesn't really change anything, it just formalizes it. So.
Any other questions at this point? Thank you for being patient.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. So.
Appreciate your business in town.
All right. Yeah, thank you. I'll let you go home.
Steve, is there anything else you want to bring up? Steve,
Well,
I think Steve
Vaughn has
has one.
requested a copy of Appendix D on tiny homes. You have that in your
Yeah,
packet.
thank you.
And the only thing that's unclear about this is what do they require for a foundation? I guess something like we ought to talk a little bit more with the state about it. I mean, is it a mobile home, or if it's not a mobile home, if it's considered a modular home, then it has to have a foundation that resists the frost. And all it talks about is the unit itself. It doesn't talk about what it sits on.
Anything else? No action on this, we're just
Informational.
informational. Any other items to come before?
Oh, yeah, we have to set the home occupation, the home occupation and the home enterprise ordinance changes that we reviewed and voted on last month.
Right.
Set them to a public hearing at the next meeting.
Okay.
Home enterprise and home occupation. You approved them at the last meeting. And now.
So should we also at this point put forward, we're gonna have to advertise a public hearing, right?
Right.
Should we at this point also put on the agenda, are we early enough to be able to put on the agenda the changes for the DEP zones related to, or should we wait?
I don't think I'll have that information within a month. I could if the DEP would cooperate, but I don't think we can do that.
They're extremely busy right now.
Yep. And then the home, how pressing is the timeline on the public hearing for the home enterprise?
Well, Catherine indicated she'd like me to set it for the next meeting.
And then they'll go back, then it'll go to the council.
Yeah.
So we're still looking at a few months away.
I mean, is there immediate effect of this? Is there something that's waiting on it? I guess I'm just wondering whether we should push that back a month if it would allow us to do the DEP, to combine those two for the...
We can set it for the next meeting.
Because that might give a lever for the folks that are wanting to have that taken care of to say,
So,
you know,
next
instead of having a
meeting
public
is-
hearing next month on
is
this.
June 10th, so you want to set it for the July 8th meeting?
I'm asking the question. I mean, should we push it another month and then have that be a lever for the other piece, the redrawing of the boundaries for those?
My recommendation would be that let's do the hearing and send it to the
Council.
the council. They're pushing for that kind of stuff to get
It's
done.
like $96 it costs us to.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Every time I see
It's
it,
good.
I'm
Someone
that up,
else.
it's always put as a big.
I mean, it's just his bonus that's getting.
Right.
So do we have to, we've been talking about waiting to do the map review public hearing until we had something else that we would do with it, but it's only $96
Yeah,
to advertise a public hearing.
yeah. I mean, I've got some time cost, but I'm going to be here anyway, so.
Yeah.
I might have to work an extra day or something here.
Okay.
So that would require a vote if you want to set that to public
Do I
hearing.
hear a motion to send the two ordinances to a public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
And that would be for the June 10th meeting you're talking about.
Correct. Okay, all the June 10th, something happened.
So we need a vote.
Yep, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any other items to come before?
So I put it to the rest of the planning board. This is not the first time that we've had businesses from our community come in and complain about the processes, and I'm wondering whether as a body, I mean, I put it to them, right, that should we be putting it on them to make that communication to the council, or should the planning board be submitting something saying, informing the council of complaints that we are hearing as it relates to the treatment of businesses in the community?
I think we need both of them. I think both of those should happen.
Yeah, that's unacceptable. It really is.
For our next meeting, should we maybe draft a notification or something that we can send to the council?
Sounds like a great idea for you to do.
I said we, Juan. We.
He said we, I heard him say.
I'll review it. No.
But I mean, I think that would be the process, right? We draft a notification, we all hash out the language, approve it, and then send it over.
I think that makes
We all sign
sense.
it, right?
So you-
And Jan delivers it.
Yeah, I'll take it.
You draft it at the next meeting, and you approve it at the next meeting? I don't know if I understand.
I think we draft it before the next meeting so it can go in the packet, so everybody can
So
review it.
you want to approve it the next meeting, that's what I
Right.
want to be sure of.
Yeah.
2 in one night. two negatives.
Okay.
One is,
Uh,
this is my own personal thing here, I mean, I have been, for several reasons, attending most of the council meetings. And I do that for a couple of reasons. One is to hear the discussion, but my personal feeling is I think that, and there have been a couple of times that a couple of things have come up where they've made reference to the planning board. And if somebody's there that can answer those questions, or at least say, let me take it back. For example, the two ordinances kind of got hounded the other night about why haven't we sent those there yet, but that's beside the point. But I think there needs to still be some kind of a dialogue. So I think the idea of the note that you're proposing that we send up there, that's important. They need to hear that.
I think we could also, so one of the things that a lot of the other, well, all the council committees do, that I think the town committees should all be doing as well, is submitting a report for each council meeting, at least to go into the record. Doesn't have to be long, paragraph 2.
Is that the minutes or?
Well, the minutes
Or
for
a
us,
summary of
the minutes for us would work.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But not just
the minutes.
So what I'm proposing is not just the minutes, but a summary, right? I mean, we've been here for 2.5, 3 hours. There's no way you can narrow all that down into
If you read the last page of the minutes, we've addressed that to be able to, because it was just taking up so much of my time, that we made a statement here at the end. Minutes are a synopsis of the meeting. For more detail, please go to the Pittsfield website and click on town meeting on it. It tells you how to go up to the town report, the town website, and read it.
Right. But, so I think that's great, and that should be in there. How many councilors with all of the town committees that we have time to review the recording of every single meeting? If
Probably very little.
Exactly. So,
But
just because you write it in a piece of paper don't mean they're going to read it either. No offense.
so if Jan stands up at every town council meeting and delivers a 1-paragraph report of the planning board meeting that we just had, that's what I'm proposing.
I think it's duplication of evidence. My minutes will say who voted for what and who seconded, and basically the wording of the motion. But it doesn't give every detail of all the things that was talked about.
But Ron, am I hearing you correctly, is suggesting that the planning board authorize Jan to speak on her behalf at council meetings as a report?
Yeah.
Which I think, I mean, I believe you have that authority already, is that right? And then we can just throw you out of the seat if we don't like what you say?
It won't be the first time. I think that, I mean, there's always the thing at the end of the meeting where people, obviously can get up and say, make their comments. But I think this committee is kind of important for the operation of the town. And we sit and listen to the town manager's report. We sit and listen to the finance committee reports. Maybe we need to sit and listen to the planning board reports. Just a thought.
Do you want to make a formal request to the council that they put, if a chosen representative of the planning board is present at the meeting, that it's
I'd be happy to
put on the agenda? Is that what we're?
I have no problem.
Just a standing
report.
A standing
I think
agenda item for a planning board report?
I mean, the other piece is, even though the council members, they go around the room, I mean, Howie gives a report on the bicentennial, and Heather gives a report on the communications committee, so I think, if somebody's there, that could be built into it. So I will check with the mayor and see if the mayor is willing to add that as a possibility.
and then we'll take it up again at the next meeting.
Is everybody fine with that?
Sure.
I think it's a good idea.
Okay, having said that,
Just one other clarification on it. The teeny homes, information, you want me to put that on the agenda for the next meeting? We haven't voted on,
Yeah.
we want that yet.
Yeah, that's great.
I'll put it on that next meeting.
that'll just be a small vote.
But,
I will take a motion to adjourn. I move.
I was gonna say, to make that motion, I think we just jump the
There's a
shark.
second, all those who are opposed can leave. I want to remind folks that the recorder is still running and will run until we leave the room.
Okay, the motion to adjourn, Bob. All in?
All in favor?
Second,
Is there a, like, whoever gets a motion to adjourn gets a free drink or something?
I'm motion to adjourn.
Yeah, 20 of 6.
Sir.
I'll be right on house.
Uh-huh.
Royce, how was your winter?